Look, we had a week off just because there wasn't much going on, but don't worry, there is a heap going on this week. In this week's episode, we have a good chat about Zwift Academy, what happened to Sonny Colbrelli, your weekly YouTube update. Some guy released a video about some stupid overpriced bike. Cam Jeffers is no longer. And why won't mammals run tubeless wheels? All right, guys, let's get into it. So an event that's close to both our hearts, Jesse, supposedly, the Zwift Academy. It's kicking off, the finals are, anyway, in a couple of weeks. Let's have a chat about this.
Yep.
Kick us off. Give me some names here.
Well, there's two in the Nero sphere that have made it through. By the way, this is going to be a totally biased Zwift Academy discussion because I don't care about the other guys. But yeah, got announced. So from last year, if you guys followed it, Cooper Sayers is got himself back in, which is great. Nero Continental rider from this year. And then the other guy in the Nero sphere is Lucas, other guy from Australia down in Adelaide. He's coached by Dan, who's the other coach at Nero Coaching. So really cool to get him through into finals. So two Aussies again, overperforming, I would say, relative to our population. I did a brief look at some of the other guys. The ages are quite interesting. So youngest guy from the UK, I think his name was Will, he's 19. Then Cooper is the next youngest at 23. And then it's 25, 26 and 27, I think, for the three others. So quite an old, like average age compared to previous years. Quite old, like 27 years old is pretty interesting. And looking them up, there's not much on them on pro cycling stats, meaning that most of them, I don't think any of them have been on a Conti team before besides Cooper.
I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this Zwift Academy thing, as you know. Like, obviously, it's provided a fantastic sort of pathway for Jay initially, obviously. Is it an actual search for the best cyclist, or is it a reality TV show? Because I think last year certainly was the first time that... from a content creator perspective, that was potentially the best content created on YouTube, like, for cycling last year. Like, how awesome was that? It was Survivor. It was everything that, like, you love from reality TV shows. And there are those young guys out there trying to get a pro contract. So if you didn't know them and you were just like this casual observer, literally the best content going out there. Obviously, we have other hats on at the time, certainly cheering for and opinionated about who we thought was the best. And, obviously they went with the development style rider as opposed to, I think everyone can potentially agree who the couple of best guys were for that particular.
I mean, we saw how that played out this year. No, hate to Alex Bogner, but he hasn't done anything this year, and he's still young. I think I think his deal was for 2 years, so he's got another year in the pro ranks. But yeah, he hasn't done. There's no results really for him this year, which is.
And ultimately, was it the best thing to happen for him? Do you know? He would have raced with probably ARA again. He would have got some good races, Langkawi potentially, that kind of stuff.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And this I would hope to think that I did, because I did a Zwift reaction video last year. And I think that's what I said in that video was I'm worried this is not actually the best outcome for Alex at the time. Yeah. There's, as we've learnt through our experience with Jay, that first year of becoming as the Zwift Academy guy is not it's not it. You have to get a result. That's it. So it's hard for someone who's coming at it from a development perspective to try and work their way into it, because it's not quite set up for that. And I'd argue now, with De Koenig or Alpecin, whatever we're calling him, going World Tour, you'd have to suspect is going to be even more limited an opportunity.
Would be, but they are still running I'm guessing they're going to still run their Conti team, which is what his contract was for this year. So there's that. But you got a point. If you're already on, he was already on ARA, who already have a good development process and get good race starts anyway. So, maybe that wasn't. Yeah, we can look back in hindsight.
America, what's going on? What's going on? This is another year running where no male has been selected in the Zwift Academy finals. And this was 12 months ago. I haven't seen recent data. 45%-ish of Zwift's subscriber base is US. Now, as like that could be Legion are Zwift sponsored. I kind of would have thought you'd even see one or two of them maybe like on there.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really. It's so hard to follow because people are just doing the Zwift Academy. You can't follow. I mean, you can follow the guys that get selected for finals, but you don't know who was trying to get into finals. So I don't know if the younger riders developing in the US don't really care about it or still don't really see it as a pathway. But it is interesting that none of the finalists are from the US.
Yeah,
you would have thought. There would be the talent there. 100% there would be the talent to do it. I don't know why. Yeah, it's
potentially like the desire thing because it's like, weren't we saying in the first episode, like that what's the story? There's just not as many Americans going world tour as some of the smaller English-speaking nations like ourselves. And we were kind of theorizing that potentially it's just because the US domestic scene is kind of a nice, happy, safe place to be. So why go and race world tour?
Possibly, yeah. There could, essentially just distractions or good distractions as well. Other things to get into. So maybe they're not as desperate as us Aussies stuck down here looking for any way to get out.
This is maybe a chat we can have for another day. But like, I kind of wonder whether we're like, to make it, you've got to go world tour. Like maybe that's actually like the wrong way. Like the gravel scene's like just taken off. I know we've discussed this before, but like maybe that's what people want to do. Like that Keegan, the guy, what's his name?
Keegan Swenson.
Keegan Swenson. Like he's making a nice career for himself, like doing his thing over there. So why desperately race in Belgium, on a Wednesday pissing down cobbles when you can like stay in your hometown? Just
with Cooper, right. So they've selected him back for another year to go to finals. Admittedly, he didn't have a great year on the road this year. The second half of the year with St. Piran, he doesn't have any results. I think he got a fifth at a Pro Camise, which is doesn't look that great, but if you know the scene, it's very difficult to get that result. His target was Tour of Britain. He didn't get any results there. Them selecting him back for the second year in a row, which is the first time that someone has gotten a second shot at Zwift Academy. You got to think that they back him, or it would be pretty cruel to invite him back for a second year if you didn't have an idea that he was going to get through. Like he's got to be in with a shot, surely.
What you just said then, and this is this thing about it being a reality TV show.
Because he was close last year. Like he was the top. It was him, Bogner, and then sort of maybe Sam. They were tossing his name up. That's kind of why I'm. Yeah.
But if you're the producer of this show, you're like, we need storylines. Great storyline. We'll get this guy back. Got really close last year. We've already got a narrative around him. And so the thing that Cooper was pissed off about, and rightfully so, was the way they chopped up his appearance on camera to make him look like the full arrogant guy, right? So he's not a cocky bloke by any stretch of the imagination. He's a straight shooter. So when they ask him, how did that workout go? And he won it. He's like, oh yeah, it went really well. I was really happy with it. So, and the way that was cut up in the show was to make it look like, oh, this Cooper guy's the favorite. He's dominating it all. And so that was the narrative of the show. So, one of the things that he's going to look at this year is maybe just being a bit more reserved in the way that he talks. So it's less even the way they chop up the stuff, like if you do a sideways look, a nod or something, like they can cut to that and have it make it look like, oh, what a little prick this guy is, thinking that he's won kind of stuff. So from the producer aspect, this is what you do. You bring the guy back, you make it, there's your story, and then you see it play out. And
you've got a lot of faith in the producers. I would be surprised if the production team with that advanced that they're almost scripting it like I would like to think the coaches have just made that decision, and it would actually be impressive for me if they had the foresight to do this with the intention of making a good show out of it. That's like actual television style production.
That's what I'd do. Yeah. Oh, maybe that's just Maybe it's me, but like that's what I'd do. I'd totally have, and they're paying for it. Like Zwift, GCN are paying for this. Like Alpecin have no outlay here. They're just winners. Like even Zwift pay for the contract next year. So it's like Alpecin are like, we don't care. That's like the whole thing with Jay. It was like, oh, so he can ride his bike actually as well. All right, cool. So yeah. Anyway,
we'll have to see, won't we?
All right. Anything else on Zwift?
About it.
That's it. Let's. That's enough Zwift for 12 months.
Okay.
All right. I'm done.
Right, sure.
I'm done.
Did you see Sonny Colbrelli's been forced to retire? Damn. Terrible.
Yeah. One of the best Italian national champions of recent memory.
Yeah, it sucks. And just as he was getting like that tour, and he was so exciting to watch, and then he won Paris-Roubaix, it was like, oh, yeah, sucks. So he, for those that didn't follow, he had a heart attack after one of the stages, I think it was, or one of the races, and then sort of went quiet, and eventually had to get a pacemaker put in under his skin because he had an irregular heartbeat. And there are some athletes that can still compete with that. So there is a soccer player that has a similar thing, but because it's soccer so controlled, you're on the field, they're there with a defib straight away. If anything happens, it's sort of safer, but cycling obviously is a different ball game. He's not allowed to race in Italy with that. So they basically, he's had to retire, which is a shame. But the thing that got me about this was there was no explanation around or discussion around what's caused this. It's just sort of, oh, he's retired and that's sad. And okay, see you, Sonny. It's like, yeah, to me, it's some of these things can just be chance and genetic. The thing though is elite athletes, professional athletes have very good cardiac screenings all through their development. So the chance that this randomly came on at his age, I think is quite unlikely. Would have had to be something that's caused it, which there's been no discussion of. So to throw some things out there, we saw riders getting COVID and then racing either with it or getting it in the middle of a Grand Tour and then having to pull out. So, and then coming back very quickly after having it. It didn't seem like there was much oversight in terms of like return to play for athletes that got COVID. So could that have had impact on your cardiac health? Yes. Was it potentially a side effect of the vaccine? We know there's rare cardiac impacts from the vaccine. Could it have been that? Maybe. I don't know. Bahrain Victorious got caught with a not banned, but a questionable use muscle relaxant in their hotel. Remember back in the tour, they got raided.
Yep.
One of the tizanidine, I think it's called. One of the side effects of that is irregular heartbeat. Could that, if he was taking that, could that have had an impact? Maybe. I would just like there to have been some investigation. I think it just seems quite almost negligent of the team and of the governing body to just say, that sucks. See ya.
Because this all happened around the same time as I have, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was a Paris-Nice stage, but I'm potentially wrong.
Yeah.
It was certainly around that period of time where all those guys were getting sick. Remember how like there was just this wave of infection and everything going through the peloton, knocking people out day after day. So I kind of feel like it was around that period of time. But like, I think what you bring up is just the pathetic like lack of strength of any players union. Like, because that's what a players union's there to do. Like, ultimately protect the athletes and back them up. And we just don't have that in the sport. There's a million reasons for that, but mostly it's just because cyclists are pretty much dime a dozen. You clock one out, you bring another one in, and that's seemingly the way it's always operated. So I know you kind of said it's pretty poor on the team. You're right, but there's just nothing behind that, you know.
Well, the riders might even be against it in the moment. But it's like there needs to be rules in place, or even an investigation would have been nice to kind of figure out, okay, why has this happened? And then maybe there has been in the background and they haven't made it public because it's his personal medical things, and that's fine. But it's not really personal if this has been caused by something that could affect other riders.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have been nice to have gotten some answers, because to me that just raises a whole bunch of questions which have just seemingly been swept under the rug.
Well, the lack of sort of transparency of it from like, I just start thinking like dodgy stuff. That's literally where my mind goes every single time, because you know, you're like, oh, the guy retired. He'd just come off that incredible season where he was just like dominating the medium mountain stages at the tour, wins Paris-Roubaix, and then it's like no health issues, heart attack, almost dies, has to retire. And you're just like, what? So yeah, I totally think that it's just another circumstance where like we're just left as like spectators of the sport, just asking questions. You know, imagine in another sport, like one of the best NBA players has a heart attack on the court. 3 or 4 months later, is forced to retire, and they just go, "Oh yeah," because he, you know, we weren't sure what was going on. Like, that's not good.
Well, not even we weren't sure. It's just not even mentioned. It's kind of just like, oh, he had a good innings. See ya. It's just what is this? Yeah. What planet are we on?
Yeah.
Why can't anyone ask? Isn't that the journalist's job to go and pester all the... Like, it's not cycling tips, just do an article, not calling them out, but I think that's where I saw it. It's just like, oh, you know, he's forced to retire. They didn't even mention really reasons. It's just like, is no one doing their job? Like, what the hell?
I don't know. I don't know. I kind of wonder maybe like whether mainstream media are a bit like, well, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole anymore. Like, because, I don't know, they're afraid of finding something, or it's not what sponsors want anymore, like people diving into the sort of drug cabinets of teams. I don't know.
Or they're not going to get, if they don't even get a skerrick of information from the team or the governing body, it's like, well, we can't even say anything because there's no evidence to any accusations or any reasons we give, so we're just not going to touch it.
We'll throw accusations though.
Yeah,
we'll do that. We don't need evidence. No. We don't need any evidence here. We can throw it out there.
Yeah. Anyway, we had to mention. I had to be mentioned because it's just too mind blowing for that just to get forgotten. And Sonny. Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, it's terrible.
That's what it'll be. Yeah, I remember that guy.
Probably should have mentioned this along with the Zwift chat, but similar virtual riders getting pro contracts. Michael Vink, who most people will not recognise that name, we do because he's a Kiwi from New Zealand. He's raced a bit in Australia. Very strong rider, but he's about 30. I think he's 30 years old, sort of an older guy. He's been around for ages. He's signed with UAE next year on a 1-year contract through My Woosh.
Right.
Do you know what My Woosh is?
How can I deflect this question? No, I thought it was some sort of moisturizer thing because it's on the back of their shorts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the UAE team.
It's not a moisturizer?
It's a virtual training platform, a competitor to Zwift.
Did I mention I don't really use the trainer much?
Yes. So that was kind of interesting, but it came out... Woosh is I literally know next to nothing about the platform. I know two things. Firstly is that Michael Vink was doing the racing on My Woosh, which firstly has very good prize money, like thousands of US dollars in prize money, which is very interesting. I mean, Zwift racers don't have any prize money, so they're throwing cash around. But according to the article, when he got signed, he was signed because he got recognized on My Woosh, and then the team got in contact, and that's how he managed to. They then sent him for testing, according to the team, and they were like, "Holy crap, this guy's a weapon," which he is. If we've raced him, the guy, he's won Southland Tour of Southland before, which is on at the moment, and he's an absolute crazy
pedals at a cadence of about 42.
Yeah, so he's an absolute weapon. So he probably got the talent for it, but it's just a weird one. 1-year contract. Sounds like almost like a real budget Zwift Academy sort
Yeah.
of thing they got running.
So I'm just Googling my Woosh.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. I'm madly playing catch up here. Thank you, DC Rainmaker. I'm currently reading your article about it. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Mhm.
Holy crap. 75K a month in prize money.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh, and it looks like Zwift.
Yeah.
Oh, the actual oh my God. Even the font looks like Zwift. That is nuts.
So
Who
back
owns
in-
it? This is a Saudi bunch or something?
I think the funding must come through there. Well, yeah. So if you back in 2020, they did this national tour thing. If you won the men's race, you got $10,000.
Yeah, wow.
10,000, 8,000 for second. Like the money they were putting out is crazy. And because that was for UAE National Day, so the funding must be coming from. We should have probably done more research on this. This is so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting to see what happens with that maybe next year. It seems like they kind of discovered Michael Vink through that. Will they maybe put something more structured in place for the end of next season? Maybe that would be cool for them to try and do something similar to what Zwift Academy is doing. But yeah, I just want to give that one a shout out because it was cool seeing someone from this side of the world.
It's I mean there's a number of these, isn't there? There's the Chinese based one that we did for a little bit for the tour of Taiwan. I can't remember what that was called as well, which is trying to move. But the thing is, they're all trying to move into the race space, aren't they? Like the gaming type angle.
Yeah.
Clearly. Oh, here we go. No, here we go. It's International Holdings Group. Yeah. So it is. It's essentially the guys who own UAE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's who's funding it. We're toying with an actual segment on the show, but I think before we actually nail down that, I think both of us kind of enjoy talking a little bit about what's going on YouTube in the cycling space because there doesn't seem to be anywhere else doing that at the moment. So yeah, we've missed a week, so it's been a couple of weeks of content gone up across the YouTube world in the cycling thing, and one thing keeps popping up in my feed, Jesse Coyle. I am very. I feel like I'm disconnected from actually what it is, but it is all this UK hill climb content, right?
It's been getting me too. Yeah.
I can't log on to my homepage without seeing someone telling me that their bike weighs 3 kilos, that their 6-minute effort up some steep driveway in the back arse of Britain is very, very steep, and there's a lot of stuff around it. What are you loving it? Does it miss you? What do you think?
Oh, it's well. So I haven't clicked on a single hill climb video, but it's good. It's a weird one. I'm like, kudos,
You're happy
because
it exists.
clearly there is like this massive bubble of hill climb stuff, which is really interesting. And there's light bikes, so there's like a tech side of it, and then there's a training side of it because they're all doing like 8 watts per kilo, like stupid power, which is interesting of itself. So there's this whole like little thing going on, which I have next to no interest in, but I'm like, well played, because it's getting, YouTube wants me in there,
Yeah.
but I'm holding off.
Yeah. It's funny because like the events themselves, they look like clubbies. Do you know what I mean? Like they look like basically one of our club races, but everyone sort of piles in around the top of this sort of little berg and cheers them on with bells and dancing pigs and all the rest of it. Yeah, like, okay, so it seems to come in a few different fashions. Excuse me, cut that bit out. You've got like the bastardized bike video, whereas like they've got like, one chain ring, they've cut off their handlebars, like they've got no saddle, like it's just like how stupid.
One brake.
The
The derailleur is like half a piece of aluminium.
Yeah, so they're the ones I kind of like because it's just who's willing to take more of a risk. But then, I kind of feel like the event itself, and we kind of struggle a bit with this here, trying to like make the events we do relevant to everyone in the world. Like the actual videos about the events themselves, I really couldn't give a shit about because it doesn't really mean anything to me. Again, good luck to you. Really enjoying the fact that it's going out there and it's something different. But yeah, I got to. What is it? It's October, November. I think we just every year. This is what's going to be popping up in our feed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm okay with that.
There's a couple of characters. So for someone who hasn't watched the video on it, there's a couple of sort of characters coming through. I don't know the guy's name. People will know if you've watched the videos. There's a Masters guy there who's got like a world-class VO2 max. There was a videos on it, and then there was an article that even popped up on my feed about this guy, and I can't remember his name, but he's like kicking everyone's ass in some of the longer climbs. Stupid watts, and he's obviously this sort of genetic freak who's managed to train and is now kicking everyone's butt.
Is there any doping control at these events? Do we know?
I don't know.
Don't know?
I don't know.
Just asking for a friend.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. You see, see the sort of the characters popping up. They've done a good job.
What else we got?
It is. I will say, I would be more inclined to watch a UK hill climb video than a freaking bike packing trip video. That's a whole side I can't get around. Do you like that?
So I go through phases, Jesse. I do go through phases. It's almost like this thing where I see the thumbnail of the bike packing video and I go, wow, this is going to be really cool and really interesting. But here's the thing, like actually shooting a bike packing video by yourself is like shit hard. It's really hard. I was following this one guy, quick shout to a guy called, I think it's Josh Evans. Is that right? Yeah.
Josh Reed.
Josh Reed. And I watched a little bit of some of his stuff, and he did a video about like how he shoots his solo adventures, where he like carries all his stuff. He talks about the different shots that he uses, and he's all had the funny kind of shots of like him riding past the camera, and then of course you got to turn around, come back, pick the camera up, keep riding up. And I kind of got a bit of a giggle out of that, but basically from probably an inside baseball perspective, I've got so much of that stuff that I've done myself. But like it's that thing of, if you're going to shoot like a bike packing thing, you almost need like the vegan cyclist impossible route, like 4-man film crew. Like that's actually how to make that video kind of cool and kind of interesting, because it looks sick. You got like the drone following you and you like got big cutaways and the rest. But doing that by yourself, it just like it kind of wears thin on the viewer pretty quickly, because it's just so hard. Like it's so hard to do.
I think it's going to need some cinematic stuff, because to me, it's just like the thumbnail. It's like that stacked bike with 50 bags on it, and it's really dirty. And it's just, it does nothing. It does absolutely nothing for me. And the other thing that gets me with the bike packing thing, this is totally not related to YouTube, but there's always this sense of like, this is almost holier than thou. I'm on this like adventure, doing this thing for some kid with cancer, and there's not always a story, but it feels like a lot of the time there's some story which they're kind of like trying to get you emotionally in. I'm doing it for this reason. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You've taken long service leave and you're having a midlife crisis, and it is what it is.
Ultimately, you wanted to go ride your bike for 6 weeks around the country. Yeah.
And you wanted to do content on it, and don't make me donate to your GoFundMe. Okay?
Not again. We're not going to rant on GoFundMe pages again. Yeah. No, I kind of agree. That said, I think both of us wouldn't really want to do one. So that's probably why. I'd do it fully supported, but yeah.
I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't do it. It looks way too hard.
Yeah, it's potentially not for us. Only other thing I kind of did see that Cam Jeffers has, so he's not stopping YouTube. He's not trying to become a pro anymore, from what I gather, which I wanted to kind of mention, because I think when I sort of started the channel doing vlogs and things like that, he was probably the biggest like YouTuber at the time.
Yep.
Like daily videos, pretty much just about him training as a kid. And it was kind of funny because like there were lots of guys in the team when we started the team who were kind of his age and stuff. And so I was kind of watching it a bit of like, oh, this is kind of how these dudes think, basically. And yeah, it's just kind of funny to think that, you know, he's not doing that anymore because his team's folding, our team's folding as well, kind of at the same time. You know, it's that cycle of like 6 or 7 years. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he's got planned. He probably doesn't have anything planned, a little bit like what we're doing here. We're just throwing lots of stuff at the wall and seeing what happens. But yeah, quick shout to Cam. Good stuff, mate. Well done. You yeah, you inspired a lot of people to ride, so that's cool.
I think it's nice as well, like that he can finally just. He didn't really get many results over the last couple of years. So I don't know if he was trying to go pro or he kind of just enjoyed the elite training, like an elite athlete kind of thing. But yeah, it seemed like, I guess it must be nice for him mentally to be like, okay, it didn't work and I'm going to go back to just focusing on YouTube or whatever he's doing. I guess it was pretty hard to balance.
I mean, I'll be honest, I hadn't watched any of his. He went for, I think, really the kind of like challenge YouTube stuff, didn't he? Like racing a train and things like that. But yeah,
Uber. I think he did like Uber Eats.
Oh,
I did Uber Eats.
That was good. Yeah, that was good. That was good. I rated that. So yeah, no, shout Cam. We enjoyed your content. Don't worry about not becoming a pro. It's not everything it's cracked up to be.
Have you watched any cyclocross this season since it's been kicking off?
Jesse, my cyclocross career 4 years ago. That was me watching. I was trying to get you to watch it 4 years ago.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
You haven't?
You're into it now, are you?
Oh, I think it's great to watch. It's on GCN Race Pass. If any of you listening to this haven't watched it, go and watch it. Like, it's such good racing. So I'm glad it's starting. Pidcock I think he's got his first race coming up mid-November, so it'd be cool to see him. And then, because it's still early in the cyclocross season, a lot of the big names haven't transitioned out of their road season yet. So we'll start to see now. And so Pidcock's coming in a couple of weeks. Then I'm guessing Wout and Mathieu and stuff will start to come in, which is cool. But get in early because the names are already there. Oh God, here we go. The Toon Ertz and the Ellie Isabit. And, you know, those guys, they're already in there ripping in. So I think it's cool. Get in early, get a taste of who's at the front of the field before the big names come in, and then you can see how they disrupt it. But a couple of things on it. The camera angles and the way it's shot is really cool. One I watched the other day, they had a camera built into the stairs. So the riders would sort of come up to the stairs, shoulder the bike, and then run up, and then they would be stepping over the camera. They got like drone. They must have cameras on like zip lines and they're kind of like zipping across. It's really cool to watch. So big fan. The commentary on GCN, I don't know if they've brought in the big names in the commentary box yet. So it's a bit lackluster on the commentary side, but yeah.
Has it inspired you to think about doing some cyclocross racing?
No.
No.
This is very, very niche and really like classic me. I have a left-right leg length difference. You're like, where the hell are you going with this? When I use mountain bike, I use a spacer under my cleat on the road bike, a 1 centimeter spacer under my right foot. I can't do that with mountain bike cleats because the contact patch, you know, the cleat is so small. By the time you put a spacer in, the cleat just moves around. You can't tighten it enough. So that's why I can't run mountain bike pedals because my cleats, because I can't run the spacer, and therefore I can't do anything that involves mountain bike shoes. And that's why I run road shoes on my gravel bike, and that's why I'm never going to be a professional cyclócross racer. Literally, it's because I can't run a spacer.
Levels of excuses.
Yeah,
new levels. Yeah, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I was inspired. Sven Nys, does that name mean anything to you?
Does?
Yes. So he's the OG. That's when I was getting into it. I was inspired to pin on a number and get muddy and get lapped by Gary Milburn many times. And yeah, obviously I think I've said this on the channel. It didn't end well for me in any way, shape or form. But it's like I find it interesting though, like these guys like Wout and things are doing it because it kind of goes against, you know, the traditional like off-season base period, no intensity. Like I find that kind of are they just freaks, or is this just the new normal now that like guys can just go and race at 210 BPM from the gun in like December, you know?
No, it would be very heavily managed, closely managed by their coaches in terms of how they fit it in, because it's super demanding, and it could very easily derail their season if they do too much. So it would be very managed. The races are on even maybe once, twice a week, so they'd be, training wise, they'd be doing almost exclusively just low intensity work outside of that, so they can manage it. I think they're also skill wise so far ahead of the rest that, they can kind of get through it.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I reckon by end of November you'll be done with it and be like, no, not watching that. Anyway, let us know your thoughts, guys. Cyclocross, has it captured your imagination?
So speaking of YouTube, there was a great video I watched about a $40,000 bike the other day.
Good video, that one.
Fascinating.
Good video.
Oh, the comments.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the comments on there were so good.
Oh, yeah. I thought we triggered people with GCN. That triggered people.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. We can talk about this.
Yeah.
We can talk about this. I find it really interesting. I do. And I don't know whether this is just a cycling thing or what, but it's the mindset of, I'll see if I can read one of them out. I hope the owner of this bike can ride, or else they will look like a fool. Okay. Why? Like, I don't understand that. Like, if I go and buy a really expensive watch, like, do I have to know how to wear it? Otherwise people will laugh at me. Like, I find that weird. So, okay, explain it to me.
To me, it's like to go and upgrade all the bolts on the bike to titanium to save 100 grams when your FTP is 2.5 watts per kilo is, to me, that's, to me, that is,
Is it embarrassing?
I would find that embarrassing. To be that, if I put myself in that person's shoes, I'd be embarrassed. It's kind of like if you were, if you went and bought heaps of a nice Sony, and you had all this mad camera gear, and then you had like 50 subscribers on YouTube, and you couldn't edit a video for crap, and you're sort of just strutting around with all this camera gear with no idea how to use it. You'd be, if you saw that person, you'd be like, oh, who's this guy? Like,
but see, okay. Yeah. No, see, I disagree. Okay. And that, yeah, if you were trying to be a professional photographer, then yeah, you would be. Like, if you had all the best gear, you were a professional wedding photographer, and you were taking shit photos and you couldn't get a gig, then potentially it's embarrassing, or you're just bad at your job and you get a new job. This is not this person's job. This guy has made money in another industry. It is a male. He probably buys nice suits. He clearly owns a nice car. He likes nice things. He probably has a nice coffee machine at home. Why can't he go and spend that money? Now, why can't he spend that money on the best, or what he considers to be the best? Because I don't know. I kind of feel like that the whole experience of him doing that, he would have got a massive kick out of the whole process of 6 months of like sourcing the frame, like working out the paint job to like have it match this. I just reckon that's kind of, it's its own thing. It doesn't in any way relate to his ability to push a pedal.
Yep. So that's true. But I can't help but still have a laugh at a giggle at that person, because to me, that's not what cycling is. And it's obviously a personal thing. But
well, this is the theme that I think a lot of people
but I'm still going to have a giggle.
Okay.
Either way.
But that's the theme that a lot of people picked up on, and they clearly agree with you that it's like you said, it kind of feeds. It's like a consumerism. Is that what you don't like about
So
it?
that's almost to me. That's almost a separate point, which I was going to get to. For every person that's buying a $40,000 bike, and is that having an influence on the market overall? Because we're getting to the point now where we say if you're entry level getting into riding now, you got to spend a $3,000 or $4,000 Australian bike is trash. Whereas back in the day, that was a good mid-level Ultegra, 7 kilo sort of rig. So obviously, inflation and things go up, but it's getting to the point now where if I was, so I'm still on the Devel, that's what I'm riding. If I was looking to buy a new bike that is up to my sort of performance standard, I'd probably have to spend 10 grand. And I don't have 10 grand to spend on a bike. And is there a way that's impacted by all these people just flossing with their cash and the bike shops and the brands just going, well, that's what people want? Is that? Yeah, it's a long bow to draw.
I hadn't looked at it from that perspective. I'll be honest. Thank you for drawing that to my attention. I would push back on that though and say that the premium top end absolute F1 level is not affecting what you or I want in a mid-level top end sort of performance bike. I just don't think those factors are strong enough at the $40,000 purchaser. I totally agree with you that the $10,000, $12,000 bike now, which used to be the $40,000 bike, let's be honest, like it would have been only 10 years ago that $12,000 price tag, you would have gone, what the? Now that's what we would have to pay to buy a bike.
Do you not think it does though? Right. So Pinarello say, okay, this barrister wants this expensive bike, so we're going to have to do this frame shape and it's going to have to look this way and we're going to have to make it this level of complexity to justify the cost year on year, continually to make it more perceived performance. But that does carry down to the lower models of the frame. Like there's no base level Pinarello that doesn't have that sort of trickle down makes the base level more expensive because it has to be kept in line so that the model, the frames, there's a continuity across the range. Whereas they don't have the super basic, maybe, yeah.
I accept just one point. I don't know enough about the market demands, about like how many of those premium level bikes are being sold. How many $40,000 bikes are actually being built that is putting the pressure or creating the demand for the brands to actually manufacture that. I would always argue that the demand is for the mid-tier bike, and it's us that are forcing that.
But the mid-tier bike now has the aspects of I'm repeating myself, but the mid-tier bike has the aspects of the top-end bike, which is the disc brakes, which is the aero shape because people want aero, which makes that bike dog shit, but also kind of expensive. So you have to...
I'll accept your point on that, but that there's potentially a pressure on the industry. I'll be interested in your thoughts on that, guys, but I still push back on the laugh at the guy for doing it thing. For me, that's not an inclusive way to deal
very
with any.
Toxic, isn't it?
I just think that's nasty. Like, what are you going to do? There was one comment like, "Oh, I love dropping guys like that." I'm like, seriously, who gives a shit? Like, I just hate that attitude. Like, I was, and it's really hard.
I hate that attitude, but I can't help but still giggle. Maybe I just need to grow up, don't I, Chris?
I don't know. I kind of come at it a little bit as well from like, I'd like to make some more videos like that. Like, it's sort of, I like sort of spotting things, but it's really, really hard. You can see why the owner of that bike is like, what the fuck would I want that to go on YouTube? Like, because you'll just see like hate underneath it. So
100%. I think the sort of the make it, that person looks like a fool thing isn't productive. What I will say, there were some good comments on there that went through and kind of discussed the upgrades that were made that were potentially not making the bike better, and perhaps better value upgrades they could have done and things like that, which was kind of interesting, like the SRM thing and how they could run the THM crank and chain rings, which would be lighter, and then run a separate power meter. Like that kind of stuff is, interesting to go back and forth on. And the tyres. Pirelli, what was the Pirellis?
So,
why is he running Pirelli 4 seasons?
Okay, we need to talk about this, Jesse. We do need to talk about this. So in chatting to Tom about the build, as a generic comment he made, guys and girls buying those premium of a certain age, of which I'm nearing, that they don't believe in tubeless. I know. Which, I'm sorry, you're all wrong. You are all wrong. Tubeless is legitimately the best thing to happen in cycling since I've been in it. Full stop. Like, it's a game changer. But he can't get them. He can get them to put a friggin' wax chain on, spend millions of dollars on all that stuff, but put sealant in a tube, put sealant in a tyre. No, not doing it.
Is it the old wives' tales that are still lingering around from tubeless 6 to 7 years ago?
I think Giant and BMC have a huge amount to answer for that first iteration of tubeless that came out. That was just like sealant splattered over people's living rooms day in, day out. You've got a lot to answer for that because I think people are still scarred.
They forced it, didn't they? They were sending bikes out ages ago with set up tubeless, and then people just sort of bought them from the shop. Like, what's this? What's like they got a flat, and then they had no idea what to do.
Yep.
And then it was like, we
were down at Tour Down Under. I'm going to say 2017, and we were out riding with a guy and had a BMC. He got a flat. Had this white stuff coming out, and all of us are standing around the wheel going, what the fuck is that?
A caveman.
None of us had any idea what was going on. And he had to like call an Uber from the Adelaide Hills. We were like, this guy's bike's leaking. What's going on? So you've got a lot to answer for, Giant and BMC, because it's moved on dramatically since then. Yeah. All right, thanks so much for watching. We've got a few tubeless videos, which I'll link down below. Jesse, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We will see you next week.
Yeah.